Have you ever caught yourself listening to that constant chatter in your head, the one that criticizes, doubts, and makes you feel small? You might think it's your own voice, but it's not. It's an imposter. That voice you hear, the one narrating every thought, every fear, and every insecurity, is not the real you. It's something called the ego, a mental construct designed to keep you trapped in fear, doubt, and comparison. The ego thrives on making you believe that you are separate from everyone and everything around you. But that's not the truth. There's a deeper part of you, the real you, that is calm, powerful, and connected to something much greater. Today, we're going to uncover that truth, and by the end of this video, you'll know how to break free from the ego and connect with your true self. You are not your thoughts. You are not that constant, critical voice in your head. You are the awareness behind those thoughts, the observer, the one who watches them come and go. This is your true self, the calm, quiet presence that exists beyond the noise of the mind. Now, let's talk about the ego. The ego is a part of you, but it's not the real you. It's like a filter through which you experience the world, but it's distorted by fear, insecurity, and the need for validation. The ego is constantly trying to protect you, but it does so in ways that keep you trapped in negative patterns. It compares you to others, tells you that you're not good enough, and makes you doubt your own worth. But here's the thing, your true self doesn't operate from fear. It doesn't need validation from the outside world. It is already whole, already complete. When you learn to recognize the voice of the ego and separate it from your true self, you open the door to a deeper, more peaceful way of living. The ego, although a part of us, often works in ways that mislead and confuse. Its primary function is to protect, but it operates from a place of fear and insecurity. It wants to keep you safe, but in doing so, it creates barriers that stop you from reaching your true potential. Think about this. How often do you find yourself comparing your life to someone else's? Whether it's on social media, at work, or even among friends, the ego is always looking for ways to measure your worth against others. It convinces you that you're lacking, that you need to be better, smarter, more successful. But here's the truth. The ego's comparisons are an illusion. No one's journey is the same, and your worth isn't defined by external standards. The ego also thrives on external validation. It tells you that your happiness depends on things outside of you, whether it's approval from others, material success, or recognition. But as long as you rely on the outside world for your sense of self, you'll always feel a sense of lack. The ego creates this illusion of separateness, making you believe you're disconnected from others and from the world around you. This is why the ego misleads you. It's always looking outward for fulfillment when the real peace and contentment you seek can only be found by looking inward, by reconnecting with your true self, the part of you that knows you are already enough, exactly as you are. Now that we understand how the ego works, let's explore the difference between the ego and your true self. The ego is loud, persistent, and often driven by fear. It's the voice that constantly narrates your day-to-day life, judging, criticizing, and comparing. It's always focused on what you lack or what could go wrong. On the other hand, your true self is calm, peaceful, and confident. It doesn't speak in fear or comparison. It speaks in intuition and clarity. One of the clearest ways to tell if it's your ego or true self guiding you is by noticing how you feel. The ego makes you feel small, anxious, or defensive, while the true self feels expansive, open, and free. The ego is driven by what-ifs and worst-case scenarios, while your true self is grounded in the present moment, trusting that everything is unfolding as it should. Imagine this. You're standing by the ocean. The ego is like the crashing waves, turbulent and unpredictable. It's noisy and distracting, pulling you in different directions. But beneath those waves lies the vast, calm ocean, still, deep, and endless. That is your true self. It's always there, steady and strong, no matter how chaotic the surface becomes. When you start recognizing the difference between these two voices, you can begin to trust your true self more. The next time you hear that voice of doubt or fear, ask yourself, is this coming from a place of love and truth, or is this my ego trying to keep me small? By practicing this awareness, you'll start to see through the ego's illusions and reconnect with the deeper part of you that knows no limits. The ego's primary tool for maintaining control is fear. It constantly feeds you scenarios where you are not enough, where you are inadequate, where others are better, and where failure is just around the corner. This is what creates suffering. The ego pushes you to chase things that it believes will complete you, whether it's success, recognition, or material possessions. But once you achieve them, the satisfaction is always temporary. The fear returns, and you're left feeling just as empty as before. Let's look at a common example. Social anxiety. You walk into a room full of people, and suddenly, the ego starts running a commentary. What do they think of me? Am I dressed well enough? What if I say something stupid? This kind of inner dialogue can spiral out of control, leaving you feeling tense and disconnected from others. The ego thrives in these moments of insecurity, convincing you that you must prove yourself to be accepted, when in reality, the true self knows that your worth isn't dependent on external validation. The ego also creates suffering by living either in the past or the future, never in the present moment. It keeps you trapped in regret over what has already happened or in anxiety over what might happen next. Rarely does the ego allow you to be fully present, and because of this, you miss out on the peace and joy that are available to you right now. The truth is, your true self is not concerned with these stories of the past or future. It exists only in the present, where there is no fear, no comparison, and no judgment. By recognizing when the ego is pulling you into fear, you can begin to break the cycle of suffering and reconnect with the peace that already exists within you. Now that we've identified the ego and the ways it causes suffering, how do we begin to connect with the true self? The journey starts with awareness and mindfulness, two practices that allow us to step back and observe our inner dialogue without becoming consumed by it. The key is not to silence the ego, but to become aware of it and recognize when it's taking control. The more you notice the patterns of the ego, the less power it will hold over you. One of the most effective ways to weaken the ego's grip is by focusing on the present moment. The ego thrives in the past and the future, always pulling you into regrets or anxieties. By bringing your attention to the present, you immediately begin to diminish the ego's influence. This can be done through mindful practices, such as paying attention to your breath or becoming aware of the sensations in your body. When you notice your mind drifting into worry or comparison, gently guide it back to what's happening in the here and now. Another powerful technique is self-inquiry. This involves asking yourself deep, reflective questions, such as, who am I really? Or who is observing these thoughts? These questions are designed to take you beyond the surface of the mind, beyond the ego, and help you realize that you are not the thoughts themselves but the awareness behind them. The more you practice this, the more you connect with the part of you that is stable and unchanging, no matter what the ego says. It's also important to let go of the need for external validation. The ego constantly seeks approval from others, but the true self knows that its worth is not determined by outside opinions. Start noticing how often you look for validation in the form of likes, compliments, or recognition, and remind yourself that your true value comes from within. Trust in your own inner voice, rather than being swayed by what others think of you. When faced with mistakes or challenges, understand that the ego will often use these moments to make you feel small or unworthy. However, your true self sees these situations differently. Instead of berating yourself for errors, ask, what can I learn from this? This shift in perspective helps you grow and evolve rather than stay stuck in cycles of self-doubt. Another way to reconnect with your true self is by spending time in nature. Nature operates without ego. It doesn't compare or judge. By immersing yourself in natural surroundings, Whether through a walk in the park, sitting by the ocean, or hiking through the mountains, you tap into a sense of unity with the world around you. This allows the noise of the ego to quiet down and gives space for your true self to emerge. By consistently practicing these mindful approaches, you will begin to feel a significant shift. The ego will still exist, but you'll recognize its voice for what it truly is. Just noise, not the truth. Over time, your connection to your true self will grow stronger, bringing more peace, clarity, and freedom into your life. When you begin to live from your true self, a profound transformation takes place. The first thing you'll notice is a deep sense of peace. Unlike the ego, which constantly seeks external approval and is driven by fear, your true self is content with the present moment. This peace isn't dependent on outside circumstances. It comes from knowing that you are enough, just as you are. This inner calm becomes your foundation, even when life presents challenges. Another benefit is clarity. The ego often clouds your judgment with fear, doubt, and comparison, making it difficult to make clear decisions. But when you are connected to your true self, your intuition sharpens. Decisions that once seemed overwhelming become easier because they are made from a place of inner knowing rather than external pressure. You start trusting your instincts more, and life flows with greater ease. Living from your true self also enhances your relationships. When you stop seeking validation from others, you naturally become more compassionate and understanding. You no longer view people as competitors or threats, but as fellow travelers on their own journeys. This shift opens the door to deeper, more meaningful connections. You listen better, judge less, and approach others with greater empathy. Creativity is another area where living from your true self can have a significant impact. Without the ego's constant chatter and self-doubt, you find that you have more access to your creative abilities. You feel freer to express yourself authentically, without the need to impress or compare. Ideas flow more easily, and you find joy in the act of creation itself. Lastly, when you operate from your true self, you begin to see life's challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. The fear of failure diminishes because you understand that each experience, whether positive or negative, serves as a stepping stone on your path to self-discovery. This mindset leads to resilience and an unshakable sense of inner strength. Even as you begin to connect with your true self, the ego will still attempt to reclaim control. It's important to understand that the ego can't be completely silenced or eliminated. It's part of the human experience. Instead, the goal is to develop a healthier relationship with it. The ego will continue to rise in moments of stress, insecurity, or fear, but the key is to recognize it and not allow it to take over. The first step in overcoming these challenges is to acknowledge the ego's presence without resistance. When you notice that inner voice of judgment or fear creeping in, don't fight it or try to push it away. Simply recognize it for what it is, a product of your mind, not your true self. By becoming aware of the ego's tricks, you weaken its grip. Awareness is like shining a light on the shadows. It dispels the power the ego has over you. Another challenge is learning to remain grounded in your true self during difficult situations. Life will always present obstacles, and the ego tends to react by creating fear or a need for control. In these moments, pause. Take a deep breath and remind yourself that you don't need to act out of fear. Return to the present moment, connect with your inner calm, and allow your response to come from a place of peace and confidence rather than reactivity. The ego is always evolving and adapting, but so can your awareness. The more you practice identifying and managing the ego's voice, the easier it becomes to live from your true self consistently, regardless of external challenges. As we come to the end of this journey, remember that awakening to your true self is not a one-time event, but a lifelong process. The ego will always be there, but now you have the tools to recognize it and choose not to be controlled by it. Your true self is that quiet, steady presence beneath the noise, always connected, always at peace, and always enough. The more you practice mindfulness, self-inquiry, and present moment awareness, the more your true self will guide your life. You'll experience a deeper sense of peace, greater clarity, and a profound connection to others and the world around you. Challenges will still arise, but you'll approach them with a new mindset, one grounded in love, not fear. So, the next time you hear that voice of doubt or fear, pause. Ask yourself, is this my ego speaking, or is this my true self? With time, you'll begin to trust the quieter voice, the one that leads you to truth, freedom, and infinite possibilities. If you're ready to take that first step towards living from your true self, leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, your experiences, and your questions. And if this message resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that can help you on your journey to self-discovery. The path to your true self begins right now.